Okay, can you both state your names, please, with you, Narelle?
Yes, I'm Narelle Milligan, Vice President of Northside Progress Association in Port Macquarie, New South Wales.
My name is Steve Laurence. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator for the New South Wales State Emergency Service, Mid-North Coast region.
Thank you. All right, now I'm actually going to leave it to you two to have a little conversation, and I'm just going to be this pervert looking in over the shoulders. What I'm going to ask you to talk about, though, is how you two first met, why you met, what you decided to do, and how you've actually progressed, what you've gone from there till we talked about those signs and everything. So can I just probably start with you, Narelle, because your experiences interest me the most. He's nice, but you're better.
But shouldn't we be face to face a little bit? If we're going to have a conversation.
I can do that. Yeah.
The problem is you've got to be fairly close to that microphone. And you've got to
Yeah, that's okay.
You're on the microphone side.
Yep.
Yep.
How's that?
Do you feel comfortable doing that?
Yeah. Yeah.
What does this?
He's very busy, isn't
It's a good state government employee.
he? Yes.
Which state? Oh, New South Wales.
That's it. Not Victoria, not that progressive place.
Just a tad more closer.
Yeah.
So what I would suggest actually is, Narelle, if you go back a slice and go
Yeah.
forward, and Steve, it won't make any difference on the camera.
How's that?
Okay. You cool with that?
Yep.
On the sound check for you guys? Narelle, can you just...
Yes, I'm Narelle Milligan.
Check 1, 2.
There we go. So,
Okay.
when was your first flood?
Well, I've lived on the North Shore off and on for about 14 years, and we've had very minor floods, and I'm used to big floods like Narelle and Kempsey, where the waters really come through quite some metres deep. So the first 2 or 3 minor floods, I thought, oh, these are a flood, it's just a few centimetres over the slab of the house. And it wasn't until we had the big flood in February 2013 that I realised the implications that it had for the North Shore. And that's when I first met Steve, because the SES swung in to help us and to help the local community in conjunction with our fire brigade.
When you had the flood, what did the community do? Was it just you that you started having an idea, or did you have people you knew? Just your local...
Sure. When the flood warnings first started to come out, I tuned in, as many of my colleagues did, into the ABC, the local ABC station, which is our emergency station, and they provide a fantastic coverage. The difficulty is a lot of our residents don't listen to it. And my fire brigade vice president, who's also my vice president, sent out a warning to us because he knows the area very well and said, look, it's going to be a big one. Better put a sign up at the ferry warning people to put their furniture up. So that was the initial warning. And a lot of people ignored the sign, of course. And some people had rented houses over here and the real estate agents told them that it didn't flood. So I think there was a fair level of complacency. And when the warning was switched from a minor to, you have to correct me here, Steve, minor to a major.
Very quickly.
Very quickly, but we got the warning a bit late on our mobile phones. So some people got a message about 3 a.m. in the morning. I didn't get mine till about 7. And I walked over to the riverbank, and by then the water was already coming over. And some of us were caught out a bit, and some people were caught out very, very badly. There were about 16 cars had to be towed away. There was hundreds and thousands of dollars worth of damage done. A, because people were not prepared, or B, some of us had got a bit complacent. So, you know, tradesmen had left their tools down, as they usually do. So it was a real wake-up call for us. And it was a few days, power was out for about 24 hours. Some of us are used to that here. Usually happens every flood. The SES did come over, and then when things had calmed down, Steve immediately called a meeting of residents, and it was very well turned out. and we had an independent facilitator who took us through a process of, you know, what do we do about the flood, how do we get prepared, what are your top priorities, and out of that came the idea that we needed to have a telephone tree, which we've worked on since February 2013. We've also distributed the SES kit as much as we can, and the other thing we did was prepare a residence kit which we give out to people, and it has a little bit of flood warning, but we give it out with the SES kit when we know new people have moved in. So it's a bit about ferry protocol and emergencies. We drive them to the website because there's the website has some information about floods on it.
Can you stop for a sec? This man's saying so much, and I love what he says.
Well, don't tell me you can't hear me.
And I'm going to put this on you instead. Do you mind?
Oh, I'm going to talk.
Okay, and Steve, you're now just going to be my... There we go. Thanks. Okay. So you hand this document out, yeah?
Yes, so we hand this out with the SES kit, and when I run out of kits, SES kits, I just ring up Steve and I get more delivered. And it's a little bit haphazard at the moment because we don't always know which houses are rented, we don't always know when people come in and out. But between the areas, it's worked quite well. We've probably distributed well over 40 kits since February, it would be about November 2013. And I think it's made quite a difference to the flood awareness that people have in the area. And then, of course, we talked about improvement of the gauges. We talked about some warning signs for people. So signs have gone up near both ferries because we live, or some people think we live on an island, but we live on the north side of Port Macquarie, and we're reliant on two ferries, one a small one, one a bigger one. And when flood waters come down, they go out, of course, so we're quite isolated. And we have a strip of development along the Marai River Road with some small properties, and that road is cut. So often, you know, food drops have to be organised for those people. So floods have quite a dramatic impact on this area if they're major ones. So it's taken us now since February 2013 up to a couple of months ago when the SES arranged to have the flood markers put up on the poles near the telephone poles near the ferry.
Okay. How has the community, you talked about what you've done to a certain degree, how has the community responded to what you've been doing, to the flood markers, to the awareness, to the kits that you've been giving out? What kind of responses have you been getting?
We've had a very good response to the SES kit and the welcome, you know, to the neighbourhood kit. And people have been interested in the developments as they've happened, the different things that have gone up around the place, the telephone tree. We've had more people come on board and make contact with us because we said there's a telephone tree, we want to contact you in emergencies. And that's been very good because before then they wouldn't have come near us. I mean, they don't come to the meetings, they didn't come to the SES meetings, but when I see them and I know that they're residents and I say, well, you know, we're setting up telephone tree because of in case of emergency, that they will happily give their telephone numbers or their mobile numbers.
Okay, so the people who are less outgoing, who are less community-minded, are still seeing this as a very good tool.
A very good tool and very positive. Yeah.
Can you just tell me what you've actually got in your welcoming booklet there?
Yes, certainly. We have an outline of the organisations, ours, the Northside Progress Association, and the Fire Brigade, because the Rural Fire Brigade is the only other organisation that's on the North Shore. We don't have any shops and we don't have any facilities apart from the Fire Brigade shed. So then we talk about some flood information, we talk about the reserves, we talk about the ferry services and emergency and the protocol, and then we finish up with a little reminder to have an emergency shelf of, you know, goodies in their pantry and emergency things, because again, during the flood, people suddenly ran out of all sorts of basic food.
And toilet paper.
And toilet paper.
So just go through it a bit more. So in the SES, we tell people to have an emergency kit, 3-day supply of this, that and the other.
That's right.
Okay. That's the overarching view. What does it actually mean to you when you actually are isolated? What are the kind of things that you really go, oh, we really need to stock up on such and such? Steve just mentioned toilet paper and stuff like that. What are the kind of things that caught, not just you, but your community, what were the things that you heard in general being talked about?
Baby food, which was a big one. Kitty litter, which surprised us, but it wasn't so much for the cats. I gather that people were using it to dry out some of their furniture or stuff that they had. I got caught because all my mosquito repellent was downstairs, and I hadn't realised that I had my matches and my mosquito repellent downstairs, and I couldn't get through I wasn't going to get through the floodwaters to get them down here, so I was, you know, stuck upstairs with lots of buzzing mosquitoes and no matches to light the candles because the power had gone out for 24 hours.
And so you were housebound?
Yes.
Okay, how long were you housebound for?
Oh, probably about 24 hours, I think.
How did you find that as an experience?
Well, I've been through it before. I mean, I cope quite well because I do have an emergency pantry. And when one of the ministers visited us, the Minister for Fair Trading, who was then Anthony Roberts, came over to warn us against likely scams and things that might happen after a flood. I told one of his assistants that I could live for a week on emergency rations, and he was quite shocked because as a young city person, he probably bought 2 or 3 of his meals out every day because I worked in Sydney and I know how people live differently.
The daily trip to the supermarket?
Some people stayed because of their animals. You know, they have chooks and dogs and cats, and they probably might have evacuated if they hadn't had that choice. Oh, that's interesting. Yes, and I've got coils on. You can cut that. So some people were really quite distressed because they'd never experienced a flood before, or they'd never experienced a flood as high as this before. So it went into houses that hadn't been flooded before.
You say they're in distress. Can you just tell me a little bit what you saw, how they reacted?
Well, I wasn't across the whole scene.
No, what did you see?
People became aggressive. Some of them demanded that the fire brigade fill their sandbags and weren't very happy that they were asked to do it themselves because of the demand. Some people behaved quite aggressively on the road. They're not supposed to drive through floodwaters, but in the absence of police, we tried to put up some barriers and some warning signs, and they ignored it and got really angry if you said, please don't splash water into people's houses, I'll do what I like sort of attitude. So it sort of brings out the best and the worst in people.
Okay, so did you see a lot of that?
No, not a great deal.
Okay. What about the other side of things? Did you see people actually going, and you see the best of people?
Immediately the houses became walkable through, I suppose, or it was easier to get around when the water had dropped a lot. People were out going around the neighbourhood seeing if people needed assistance. And I think that's probably laid the basis for the telephone tree, because many of those people are now part of the telephone tree and will be the first point of contact in an emergency.
And I think that at the post-flood forum, we also saw a lot of positive stuff come out with people offering to help or offering suggestions about how things could be made better for next time. So there was some of that community spirit and altruism demonstrated by those people, A, going to a post-flood forum, and B, offering some practical suggestions, and also coming along a couple of the post-forum meetings we had in terms of organising what needed to be done.
All right, so you've had this meeting with King Canute here and the rest of the Grand Poobahs. Who suggested the telephone tree?
Steve did.
Okay.
And it also came up through the community forum.
So you don't have to lead into it.
We're friends after
we
all
know
this
each other.
traumatic experience.
Yeah, I know. It's conscious that this will be cut out, so don't.
Yeah, I know.
When you're talking, don't talk to me. Talk to Narelle.
Talk to you around. Okay.
yeah.
And,
Right. Well, I guess the phone tree was also mentioned at the post-flood community forum in terms of a suggestion about how to improve things for next time. So,
Because we're very conscious over here. We have strip development,
Yep.
and we consist of probably 4 little areas with some kilometres in between. So it's really hard to get word out. Some people have smartphones, some people don't have any computers, some people have a landline and nothing else. And all those go out when the
Yeah.
power goes out.
and that was the thing that surprised me. I've lived in Port Macquarie. I haven't lived on the North Shore. But when we came over here to do the post-flood engagement work, that I initially came over here thinking that the North Shore was one community, whereas in fact the North Shore is a number of different communities with people on Shoreline Drive, North Shore, people at Riverside, people at Marai River Road,
And Kurilla.
and the Kurilla, and the other places. So, and that came through quite strongly in the post-flood forum about, well, that's going to work for those people, but what about us? So I think that flood phone tree helped to connect those different parts of the North Shore, if you like, into something that was a little bit more, not coordinated, but gave people a sense of belonging across the area because of their common interest,
And that made it easy, I think, to get a central person in each of those 4 little areas who are the main contacts now for the telephone tree.